And ahead of today's court appearance by the detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, the group has vowed to attend the trial at the Federal High Court in Abuja. The group is also calling on its members and other similar bodies to shut down the Federal Capital Territory in solidarity with Kanu. Now, this comes after a warning from the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. Nnamdi Kanu faces an 11-count charge of treason, treasonable felony, terrorism, and illegal possession of firearms. But there are reports that fresh charges may be filed against him when the trial resumes today. Meanwhile, Yoruba kings in Benin Republic have met in Abuja to discuss the arrest and prosecution of Yoruba Nation activist Sunday Igboho. Kings and chiefs of Yoruba origin who believe they are brothers with Sunday Adeyemo, who was recently arrested in Cotonou, are seeking ways to help the activist who is wanted in Nigeria. The Court of Appeal sitting in Cotonou will continue hearing the case today by the federal government of Nigeria against Igboho, who has been held in Benin for nearly 7 days. Indeed, there's a lot of anxiety, expectations as well for this. And finally, let's also tell you that the Olubadan of Ibadan land, Saliu Adetunji, says he has sent a delegation to Cotonou, Benin Republic, to observe court proceedings in the trial of Sunday Adeyemo, also known as Sunday Igboho. The monarch, in a statement, says those selected to be part of the delegation will be at the court, where Igboho's case will resume today, as we've told you earlier. He says he is in contact with Yoruba prominent royal fathers, including the Igboho royal crowns, to allay public fears of a repeat performance of the Yoruba Fulani coalition of 1814. Dr. Bati and Rufai. Sitting at the edge of his seats?
Yeah, sitting at the edge of a seat. Today is historical. Whatever it is, whatever goes down today will be a key day in Nigeria history, 26 July. And it's a day where Sunday Adeyemo, also known as Sunday Igboho, is in court in Cotonou. And we have Nnamdi Kanu in court in Abuja. 2 different proceedings. There are talks, like we read in the report, that the federal government will press some fresh charges, against Nnamdi Kanu. We'll see how that pans out. But most importantly, like everybody has been calling on Nnamdi Kanu's case, it has to be a free and fair hearing. The rule of law has to take its course. And they have accredited some media houses in there. We will all see the proceedings and people will be able to see if it's free and fair. The case in Cotonou, too, with Igboho, he's been taken back to prison over the weekend. He was trying to go through the Cardinal Bertin International Airport. There were various allegations. Everyone is up in the air as regards this. There were claims of him having a fake passport. The claims have been countered. Big Beninois passport. Finally, they've pushed the case to court. There are talks about extradition. They're saying extradition requests have not been served. All of this, the 2 cases we have, they're very hazy in the air. But one thing I want us to focus our attention is what brought us here. The massive agitations, the massive pain a lot of people survived, or suffered, I should say, brought us here. I keep asking the question, if the killings in Igboho did not happen, are we going to have a Sunday Igboho? If the killings of Dr. Borode did not happen, are we going to have a Sunday Igboho? If the marginalization in the East did not persist after the Civil War, are we going to have an Nnamdi Kanu? Because I keep saying it's not about a Sunday Igboho and a Nnamdi Kanu. It's about the injustices done to these areas or these regions of the country. And people will verbalize it. Return to democracy, we all forget in a hurry. We had a row for Wazurike with a mass-up. Agitating just like this. So the question we should ask ourselves, what can we do to truly show fairness across every part of the country and make people have that sense of belonging and inclusion? That's the most important question we should ask ourselves.
Okay, there are many dimensions to the 2 cases. The first is the legalistic part to it, with charges having been filed, both here in Nigeria against Nnamdi Kanu and also in Republic of Benin, Cotonou, against Chief Sunday Adeyemo. And in that regard, well, we'll say that, look, there must be fair trial. The rights of the two persons involved in the matter must be respected. And there must be, due process in terms of what is done. And particularly in both instances, no impression must be given by either the government in the Republic of Benin or the government in Nigeria that there's an attempt to persecute or victimize the two persons involved, because the whole, protest by Nigerians, by persons who identify with these two personalities, is that this is a case of persecution, this is a case of victimization. And particularly here in Nigeria, in the last 24 hours, there have been reports that, the media will be restricted from covering the proceedings in Abuja in the trial of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, a secret trial would not make sense in any way. It must be an open trial. It must be a transparent process. And part of it is allowing, the media to be involved in the monitoring process. Now, the Department of State Services has been accused of having been responsible for a particular restriction of the list of media houses to about 10. Now, up to this moment, I have not read any denial from the Department of State Services. But that will not make sense at all. It will amount to the executive overwhelming the judiciary, and it will also amount to an abuse of the rights of the media, the Nigerian media, under Section 22 of the Constitution, and also under Section 39 of the Constitution, and also under Article 9 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and Article 19 of the International Covenant on Justice, Social Justice. Now, so that's one leg of it. The second leg of it is the political dimension, which is the whole point about self-determination, about ethnic nationalism. Both Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho, they are seen as nationalists by their people. And that is why you've seen that, ethnic groupings have taken up the matter. And that even makes it far more sensitive. IPOB has spoken up, or Anese has spoken up. In the Southwest, in the case of Igboho, delegations have been sent from Nigeria to Republic of Benin by kings, by communities. In Republic of Benin, where there is a sizable Yoruba population, the kings, in the Republic of Benin, the Onisabe Osabe, the Alajong of Ajong, they held a meeting over the weekend, which is to show that this matter is transnational. The matter is also of great political interest. And that's why, the Nigerian government, that is at the center in both cases, must tread with caution. Now, the bigger concern has to do with the state of political stability in the country. You have a situation now where non-state actors have found themselves in a situation whereby, they are almost as strong as the state, if not stronger than the state. And they have a huge following that could, pose a threat, to the state itself. Because the state itself is fragile. The failure of the state has allowed, an opportunity for people, to lead their own people in a particular direction. And that's why in the remaining months of the Buhari administration, the bigger issue is not legalism. The bigger issue is how do you leave behind a united country? A country where non-state actors do not overwhelm or are not given the excuse to overwhelm the state. Finally, on the issue of politics, you see one major point that is being made by many Nigerians is that why Sunday Igboho and Nnamdi Kanu? Why not the bandits, who are in fact the biggest non-state actors who are overwhelming the Nigerian state? And why is it only, actors in the South that are being targeted? Well, some people may say, well, it's not an excuse to say you have not looked at the other part of the country, but it is a big issue for many Nigerians, particularly in the southern part. They think that there's no sense of balance, and that is why the point is brought up about persecution. Earlier on, I talked about the restriction of media access. Well, whether it is the Department of State Services that is behind it, or it is, the judiciary itself, the court itself, it is important that there is openness, there is transparency, and no form of secrecy in the trial process.
Well said, Dr. Bati. Thank you so much for fire as well. Well, that's all on the news headlines. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll actually go live to Abuja to feel the pulse of the situation at the moment before we take our dependable route to Zodiri. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Right, welcome back to the Morning Show right here on the Rise News channel. And this is why I understand that we're going to Abuja now. Also, Tunji, if you're there, Tunji Olanipe, please speak to us and tell us what is happening in Abuja as we speak now. Good morning, Tunji.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you very much. Now, of course, we are at the Federal High Court here in Abuja, and where the trial of Kanu is expected to take place today. But I must tell you that the preparation for this trial actually started from yesterday as regards the security personnel. Now the entire place is taken over by DSS operatives. From as at 4 p.m. yesterday, everywhere is blocked here. Now there are two major access to the Federal High Court in Abuja. Is it that this main one from the Unity Fountain to the Eagle Square is actually blocked. Then the other entrance too is blocked. So there is a whole lot of traffic situation because of this trial. And quite a lot of journalists are still outside. There is this kind of accreditation they are trying to do, not that, so that not all journalists will actually get in. But as at now, everything is calm. But of course, you can see some people that are probably coming in support of Nnamdi Kanu. They've been singing, and the police just addressed them, of course. So we are not expecting anything, any crisis here, but of course the situation is a little bit tense. The DSS operative, they are very on ground and they are looking stern. They are not ready to take any nonsense from anybody. Even they have one journalist. If you pick up your camera and shoot where you are not expected to shoot, your camera will be seized. And so the situation in Abuja right now at the Federal High Court is still calm. We are waiting for 9 a.m. when the trial will commence. Well,
Tunji, I see many journalists there, in front of the court. And that has been an issue in the last 24 hours. Reports, in the papers, on social media, that there has been an attempt to restrict access by journalists. Do you have any update on that? Who exactly is responsible for that restriction, or there is no restriction whatsoever?
Well, there is a restriction, and to actually put the fact right, the restriction, the list you see that is circulating is actually not from the government. It's not actually not from the president as has been touted. The fact is that this list was generated by an association. It's called NAJUK. That is the judicial correspondent. It's an association, and in their own wisdom, they said because of COVID-19, they have to select people that will cover the court processes. Of course, they don't have that power, and somehow they got a court official to sign off on the letter. The court official, I've spoken to her this morning, and she's actually not comfortable. And I told her that you sign off on this letter, and as it is now, we can safely say that this letter is from the Federal High Court. And she said no, it is the Association of Judicial Reporters that gave her the list to sign off. I said, well, madam, this is wrong because the association doesn't have a power. I may not be a member of NAJUK, and nobody can say I should not cover a court process because I have a freedom of association and the court is a public place. So that list did not generate from the DSS, that list is not from the presidency, that list is actually from an association of journalists covering the court. Well, that is the truth.
That's quite
and of
interesting.
Course, they are trying to sort it out because media like Punch is not on that list, Arise TV is not on that list, quite a number, even NTA is outside here. There are quite international media, also BBC is outside. A whole lot. VOA is outside, so nobody know how the list come about. They just decided within themselves, and some people just sit down, put up a list, and now the DSS is relying on that list, and they said, well, this list is what we saw, and there's a letterhead of the court, and so we cannot go against it.
Journalists excluding their own colleagues.
Out because I've spoken to the person.
We live in interesting times.
Yes,
but I just wanted
I've spoken to the person that signed the letter.
I just wanted to ask you, because you talked about accreditation ongoing at the moment. Those who did not make that scrupulous list by some journalists, are they being prevented from the accreditation you talked about that is ongoing at the moment? And I see that there's vehicular movement behind you. There were reports that the access around the Federal High Court will be cordoned off. Do you get the sense that that may still happen, or is it just business as usual? It's just another day in court?
Yeah, okay. To start, the access to the court as such has been cordoned off because this is supposed to be a 2-lane, if you can see. So both Gomin and Goyin are using 1 lane. They only left 1 lane to be used. So they've cordoned off the other part, which is close to the court. So from this side, it has been cordoned off. Then from the other side of the road leading to the secretariat, it has also been cordoned off. So they only left 1 lane. So both those going and those coming are only using 1. So that is the situation.
Okay.
And for the list, no accreditation is actually going on. The DSS is only relying on that list, and those are the. If your name is not on that list, you will not be allowed to get into the court.
Okay.
So, but we are trying to sort it out. We've spoken to the court officials, and they are working on something.
Tunji, thank you so much for all you're doing there, and be safe around there, I should say. But most importantly, have you been able to talk to Najok's president? Because it is very shocking that in a time where the press, have come together as a whole to fight, very nefarious laws against journalists and the press and, press council laws and the likes and things like that, you'll have some journalists exclude other journalists. Have you had time to talk to the president of that association, that Najok? Have you talked to the president?
I've not been able to reach him. Many people have been calling. They say his number is not reachable. I spoke to the former president of the association, the one that actually handed over to the present one, and he told me categorically, he said, look, we told him that you don't have a right. Now, just not a body, you can't decide. Who gave you the right to decide who and who covers a court proceeding? It is not within your power. I may not be a member of Najok, but I still have a right as a journalist to cover this proceeding. And so there is a mix-up here, there is a problem here, and I think they already are aware of that, and they are trying to see how they can manage the crisis. Because the court is the woman that signed up on the letter, even saying, it is the association that gave me the letter. And we said, well, but you signed it off. As it is now, it is the court that generated this letter. But she didn't want to take responsibility for that, which I understand, but I don't know why she signed up for that. So we are trying to reach the Najuk chairman. We have not been able, but I think the court is actually working out something to see that some major media organizations that are outside are actually allowed in.
Well, Tunji Olanipekun, you spoke earlier about some supporters who have already showed up within the vicinity of the court. Could you give us an idea of, the number, the size of that supporters group, and whether or not they will be allowed to get into the court premises?
Of course, they cannot get into the court, and the police just spoke to them now and probably asked them to leave. And I think, okay, if your cameraman can get that, those are the people. I think the police is trying to disperse them, and they are actually complaining now. They are actually complaining, and so I don't know. So these are the members. They are not much, but then they are complaining, and the police asked them to leave, and I think they are saying they have a right to stay. I don't know if you want me to talk to any of them
why not?
To see what is happening.
If you can.
Yes, why not?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Why not?
Just remove gun. Somebody.
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning.
To that man.
Thank you very much. What's your name?
My name is Peter Abasi.
So what are you here for?
I'm here for the record of Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. They are new president of Biafra. So we are here for the judgment of him, to know what the federal government will have to pass against our person, and to know what he has committed for him to be humiliated and be arrested by the president.
So what happened? Are you having issue with police?
Yeah, why we are having the issue here with police, that the journalists are here. They are trying to hear from us, to explain our feelings and to know why we are here. Police just come from nowhere that we are distracting their attention, we are making noise, that we should leave the environment, or else he will do us one or two things. We thought he was joking, and he now left and still came back when they were intervening us. The next thing, he removed a pistol that he want to shut one of us down.
So the police don't want you to talk to journalists or what?
At all. He doesn't want us to have anything to do with the journalists, and he doesn't even want us to express our feelings. They don't want us to be calm and just like that, and which cannot be possible.
Okay, thank you. Are you? Did you come from the south? So you are in Abuja. This association. Do you have a name? Which member?
I come from East. From East Island Bano local government for this issue, for this case of Mr. Nnamdi.
How many of you are here?
We are uncountable. we are much that came from east down to this place. Both the chiefs and all the cabinets, everybody, we are here.
Now, are you not afraid that you can be arrested for protesting in front of the court?
In this case, I am not afraid of anything. For being arrested for doing nothing, I am not afraid. I am not afraid. I am very, very comfortable by leaving my state down to this place for this. So I am not afraid of anything. I'm very, very perfect and confident for coming to this.
Thank you very much. Now, you just add him that I have another young man here. Can you tell us your name?
My name is Akujobi Gochukwu Christian.
So are you part of the people protesting?
I'm part of the IPOB.
So why are you? You are a member of IPOB?
Yeah.
So why are you here?
We're here in the respect of our leader, Mazen Nandekalo, because of his trial today.
So what do you intend to come and do here? Do you?
No, we want to come and witness the trial, nothing more. As you can see, we came with nothing disturbing us. That they will shoot one of our members here. So that's Nigeria for you.
So how long do you intend? How long do you intend to do this? To keep coming to the court as the trial continues?
We will be doing it. For the fact our leader is here, we'll be doing it. Even though they are threatening to kill us, that means all of us are ready to die. In this case.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Tunji,
that is the situation right now.
yes,
The Federal High
we
Court.
heard him clearly.
So you can hear them.
You know, earlier on, we had a clarification that one, it was not the DSS that provided a short list of media houses that were allowed to cover the issue. But another clarification, the gentleman that you first spoke to talked about Nnamdi Kanu as president of Biafra. Well, what we know is that he's the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, which is an organization, you know, a separatist movement, not a country unto itself. Yes. But quickly, I'd like to ask you, what is the mood generally in the Federal Capital Territory? That is beyond the court premises or the vicinity.
Well, everybody is going about their normal business. Of course, the talk is in town that Nnamdi Kanu will be in court today. And of course, the news have circulated that everybody should try to avoid the Federal High Court area. If you don't really have anything doing, you don't really need to be here. And as much as we are aware of this, many people try to avoid it. But in town, everything is going on normally. Okay. There is no crisis, everything is going on normally. But of course, people are trying to avoid this area because there is traffic gridlock.
Okay, Tunji. Okay, Tunji, real quickly, I want to know, there's Ohaneze and Igboho. What's that delegation like there?
Yes.
Are we hearing anything about the likes of Ife and Co. And even the leader of Ohaneze and Igboho? What's the representation there? We've seen the representation from IPOB. What about on Ohaneze and Igboho and other Igbo groups?
Yes, I assume they're here because I've seen like 3 red cap chiefs. We have not been able to get close to them, and so that we can talk to them. So, but of course, I know Ohaneze will be well represented at this place. I've seen some red cap chiefs that are around. So definitely we will look for them and at least speak to 1 or 2 of them. But I know they were well represented at this trial.
Well, we are barely a half an hour away from the start of the proceedings, which is scheduled for 9 o'clock. Tunji, what is I've seen 1 or 2 policemen behind you. The people who you spoke to also talked about the police dispersing them. But paint a picture for us. What is the security presence like around the federal court there, Federal High Court there?
The security presence, what? Is massive. Since yesterday, you can say where the camera is moving towards, you can say a detachment of DSS operative fully masked. You have the DSS, actually I can count about 17, and then you have the mobile police, then you have the regular police officer. So it's a full detachment, and you can see the truck of the police are just standing there in case of any eventuality. There are vans of police, about 5 here. There are motorbikes, about 4. And it's a full detachment, actually. The security is watertight, and because, of course, the security agencies are not ready for any eventuality, because they cannot be so sure what will happen. now that the IPOB say they will be witnessing the event and they will be coming to for solidarity with Nnamdi Kanu. So we never can say what will happen. So they are ready. Now you can say that says, okay, can the camera get that? They are pushing them now. Can you see that now? Now the police have come with the IPOB member, and so we are live. So we are journalists, we are live. We can't off the camera, sir. So one man has been arrested. We are told to off the camera. That now a man has just been arrested. Can you? Okay, it's getting a little bit tense. Can you change your camera? Please, can you? We want to show you what is happening right now. A man has been arrested and they have been. Please, can you get that cameraman? Please, quickly, can you do that? So the question is getting tense gradually now, and we really don't know. We have been ordered to off our camera. These two gentlemen have been arrested. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you very much. We'll remain in touch with you.
I can hear you, and this is coming from there.
Yeah, we'll remain in touch with you.
Okay, can you get that cameraman?
Please keep safe. Keep safe.
Can you see that guy? Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Live scenes from the nation's capital, Abuja, there, where security operatives have just arrested some members purportedly to be loyalists or fans of Nnamdi Kanu, who's to appear in court today, the embattled IPOB leader. We'll keep an eye on this situation and bring you live coverage as it happens from Abuja.
Right, we'll just like this was, we'll keep an eye on the proceedings as it goes on today, and I also understand that we'll be in and out of Benin Republic, Cotonou this morning to also check on the case of Sunday Igboho and come back to Abuja. So we have you covered all through the day right here on your #1 news channel, the Arise News Channel. Our dependable Rotsu comes in next. Rotsu, good morning. How are you? Let's talk business, my friend. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Adiswa. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning to all our viewers. We begin with the NNPC front page on this day newspaper. NNPC's monthly financial operations report for February. A bit delayed, February, this is July, but it showed that the NNPC sold 2.1 trillion naira worth of petroleum products between February 2020 and February 2021. Of that 2.1 trillion, Nigerians spent 2 trillion on PMS, that is on petrol. The remaining 0.1% or so was on white products, so diesel, kerosene, and so on and so forth. But petrol made up the bulk of what came in. Consumption, the NNPC did not explain how we went from consuming 50 million liters of fuel in February to 103 million liters in May of this year. Of course, Mele Kyari has spoken about the need to cut down on smuggling. It was said, we talked on the show here, that they were putting some technology items on trucks in order to monitor the delivery of petroleum from the depots. Also you have to think about the fact that the foreign exchange implications of this. 99% of the refined products that were sold were imported. It's of course to the tune of trillions of what Nigeria spends importing petroleum products. So that's the NNPC reports, monthly financial report for February. 2 trillion naira spent by Nigerians on petrol. We move to dividends. There's a high court in Abeokuta that has placed a restriction on the federal government wanting to get its hands on unclaimed dividends, which are estimated to be about over 200 billion naira. So the Finance Act 2020 has a provision for the federal government to be able to place unclaimed dividends, which are the share of profits that the company shares with their shareholders, into a fund, which is a trust fund, an unclaimed dividends trust fund, after 6 years have passed. Now, the Companies and Allied Matters Act allows for 12 years, after 12 years have elapsed of dividends being unclaimed from publicly traded companies, to be put back into the company's reserves. And what the Finance Act is saying is that after those 12 years have passed, if another 6 years elapses, then the federal government can move those funds into a trust fund. Now, what this the folks who brought this suit forward, the Palm Wealth Shareholders Association, who brought this suit forward to the High Court in Abuja, said that the federal government should not get its hands on unclaimed dividends. They should be plowed back into the retained earnings of the company. So when after you've declared profits, you either declare, give out dividends, or if you don't give out dividends, that money goes, your profits are going back into your retained earnings, which are plowed back into the company. So what they're saying is, and there was a really good This Day article back in December 2020 on this. Companies in Nigeria provide everything they can for themselves on power and so on and so forth. And they do what they can to give profits to their shareholders. So the federal government, with everything that companies are spending, they should be allowed to, if those dividends are not claimed, they should be put back into the company. Also, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Central Bank of Nigeria, they've also, moved ahead with trying to get e-dividend mandates filled out by as many shareholders as possible to make the process easier electronically to claim your dividends. So the case has been adjourned until October, I believe October the 25th, where proceedings will resume. But the Palm Wealth Shareholders Association, they sued the Attorney General of the Federation, the Minister of Finance, Accountant General of the Federation, and so on. But again, October 25th is when the case has been adjourned. So there's that debate with respect to whether or not the federal government, after a lapsed period of time, should get its hands on dividends. We move to Poultry. Poultry Association of Nigeria. The head of the Lagos chapter, Mr. Godwin Egbebe, was speaking to the news agency of Nigeria, saying that they are lamenting high cost of poultry feed, which is mostly maize for poultry, and that what they're looking at job losses, where farmers will be selling off cages and getting out of the poultry business if the federal government doesn't intervene and assist. Of course, the central bank, I think it was 2-3 weeks ago, we talked about the central bank plowing 50,000 metric tons of maize into the market to try to support prices and try to help out with this situation. But the poultry farmers, again, Mr. Godwin Ebebe, who is the head of the Lagos chapter of the Poultry Association of Nigeria, is saying that you're going to look at job losses if this situation is not attended to. So maize is it's a very important product in terms of human consumption as also for poultry, and it accounts for a pretty high cost for keeping those birds alive. Finally, Tunisia. We go to Tunisia, North Africa. There have been protests there regarding the decline in the economy and also a flare-up of COVID cases. It's mostly youth-driven. A lot of the youth there are saying that the existing government needs to step down. Tunisia has been impacted severely by the COVID pandemic. 2020, the economy contracted by 8%. Q1, this first quarter of this year, it contracted by 3%. So things are really tough in Tunisia right now. We're seeing those protests. Hundreds of people arrested over the weekend. It's a tough situation there. We're seeing the impact of what COVID-19 is doing to a number of African economies on the continent. And that's our African business update.
Well, let's start with Tunisia. Tunisia has the third highest rate of COVID daily per population after Ecuador and Namibia. A population of about 12 million people. Out of that, that country has recorded about 17,000 deaths. Now, what the president has done, Said, is to sack the premier, who incidentally last week sacked the Minister of Health. He was accusing the Minister of Health of not paying enough attention because in Tunisia, the death rate is not just high, all the hospital beds are occupied, and the vaccination rate is also said to be very slow. But after the riots, the president himself decided to sack the same premier who sacked, the Minister of Health last week. So what you find there, therefore, is, as you said, how the COVID-19 situation could impact on the stability of the state. And Tunisia would seem to provide, an excellent example in this regard. But of course, it's not only Tunisia that is so impacted. There is similar tension in some other, developing countries around the world. Now, as for the issues from Nigeria, I thought the Monetary Policy Committee is meeting today and tomorrow, right? So I wanted to ask you what you will expect.
That is
we
correct.
likely
The
to
decision
see?
is expected tomorrow. Yes.
Are we likely to see any changes in terms of the monetary policy rate in particular, which United Capital Limited, in a report in this day today, I think the report was written by a guy called Abiodun Eromosele. He's saying that, look, the monetary policy rate is something that, the NPC will need to take a look at. What are your thoughts?
I don't think they will move on the rates, as it kind of follows what happened in South Africa last week, where South Africa kept their benchmark rates at 3.5% because inflation had been decelerating from 4.9 in May to 5.2% in June. Same thing in Nigeria. We've seen inflation decelerate now to 17.9%. So the Monetary Policy Committee, I expect, will maintain their accommodative stance and not move rates. They could surprise us, but I don't think they'll move the rate tomorrow.
Very quickly, Rochus, I'm just thinking about the health consequences of, what used to be one of the cheapest protein products now becomes so expensive. But I wanted to ask you, do you think, looking back now, that import ban on maize, the CBN policy in accessing forex, was that the right step in the right direction? Because it would seem that it hasn't achieved its purpose yet, and that's why maize is so expensive for the farmers to feed.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you got to give policies time to flesh themselves out. Again, a number of companies have been allowed to access the window, but it's very, very limited. And yeah, but it's not just maize, right? It's a number of other food products. Eggs, for example, a large crate of eggs are 2,000 naira now. There was less than half over a year ago. So you can criticize the decision by the central bank with respect to the fact that it's going to drive up costs for folks who cannot access the window, but it's backward integration. They're trying to do it with sugar, they're trying to do it with cement, they're trying to do it even with fuel. So backward integration needs to be given some time to work. So in the short term, yeah, it's painful, but I guess we'll see the gains over the long term.
But Rotus, the problem has always been there is no sincerity with the backward integration. The backward integration is just another window to be able to import. That's always the problem. So when you make policies, then what is the governance level of the policy? That's always the question we don't answer. The governance behind the policy. How to, ensure that the policy works effectively.
Valid
it's
point.
the governance we don't look at. Yeah, we've all done this backward integration thing. By now, I thought a lot of us will have been sustainable in sugar, for instance, but there's still massive importation of sugar in the country. What's the essence of backward integration? When we are not sincere. But thank you so much, as always, Rotus. Moving on to more business update, Michael Wilson joins us now. Michael, great to have you.
Good morning. It's going to be one of those weeks again, basically, where we start off by worrying about the international COVID situation, pretty obviously, but a lot of reporting coming up this week, which I'll come on to. And of course, there is the Fed meeting as well. So we'll learn a little bit more about US monetary policy as the week advances. As far as stocks in the Far East and Asia Pacific are concerned, Hang Seng down about 3%, Shanghai Composite down about 2%, Tencent down about 6%, Alibaba down 5%, Meituan down 8%. More clampdown coming as far as tech stocks are concerned. More clampdown on technical companies from China, and also a clampdown in China on local financial services as well. So it's all actually adding up to a fairly damp start to Asia stocks, and also a peculiar fall in private education shares. They're down 30% again because the Chinese government is going to increase its surveillance of independent education. Let's go to geopolitical events now. A high-level meeting between China and the United States has got off to a very, very frosty start. China is accusing the US of engaging in what it describes as dangerous policy towards China. We know about the tensions, we know about the trade tariffs and the rest of it. We know about the sanctions. And also the presidents of China and the United States will meet in October to talk about weightier matters. So all this really, these high-level meetings in preparation for that, that's starting off fairly frostily as it happens. So then basically, let's recap the United States, because this is where the action is week, and Dow finishing above 35,000 for the first time in its history on Friday. Stock futures, though, down very, very slightly. But this is this extraordinary mixed picture that we're getting right now, because expectations are so high about stocks. So people are been taking money off the table in terms of futures just to prepare themselves for any nasty surprises. So we're going to hear from Tesla, we're going to hear from Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Amazon, FOMC two-day meeting, hear about more monetary policy there. And also big oil is reporting spread over this week and the beginning of next. We're talking about Shell, Total, Exxon, Chevron, BP. Here the thing is, it's how all these companies are going to react to what analysts describe as energy transition. In other words, going from oil to greener fuels. Bitcoin itself, we'll measure this now. Again, it adds to the narrative of it being extremely volatile. 30,000 for the first time for 6 weeks. Why? Well, because encouraging talk from guess who, Elon Musk, a bit of Twitter as well, supporting it. And also the feeling that Bitcoin mining actually can be slightly greener than people suspected it might be, and also fears about China's regulatory regime about Bitcoin and micro and cryptocurrencies receding slightly. I don't believe any of it. I think it'll be just as volatile as it always has. As far as the UK is concerned, now here's some interesting news. China's state nuclear agency moved away from all nuclear power projects in the UK, including £50 billion Sizewell reactor, and also, so it's, the feeling is really in the UK that the relationship between is becoming chillier. Pandemic chaos in the UK, as you'd expect, although the government relaxed the need to use this kind of app with its pings suggesting that you need to isolate if you've been in contact with somebody, even though you're double vaccinated. There are the shelves. The suppliers are still saying that they're going to remain empty for a little while. Not good enough. The boss's organisation, the Confederation of British Industry, is happening to the chorus. So basically, too little, too late, as normally happens with governments. And also, now here's an interesting. I wonder what's going to happen to these big stores that have closed in the. They're use them. They talk about go-karting, sports screens, adventure golf, for example. In other words, more exciting. 1 in 7 big shops are actually closed. So a big week of risk coming up. I'll just fill you on commodities before I go. Oil on the sidelines, basically, as you'd expect. It's sort of getting back to levels where it was just after OPEC plus, 74 for Brent, 72 for TI, and gold. Well, it's not getting at the moment. Investors right off the radar there. About $80 an ounce.
Okay, Michael. Thank you so much for your time. Maybe we'll talk tomorrow about what will probably happen to the Hinkley power plant and the likes. Adesua, over to you. Good morning.
Hey, good morning again, Rufai. And for an update on the COVID-19, let's begin by looking at the statistics as we usually would do. The global figures as it stands, according to the Johns Hopkins University, over 194 million people have been infected by the coronavirus. More than 4.1 million people have unfortunately lost their lives to the virus, and 3.8 billion vaccine doses have been administered. While some governments are struggling to get the much-needed jabs for their citizens, others face anti-vaccine protests as they try to vaccinate their way out of the pandemic. Well, here in Nigeria, 216 new cases were recorded in the last 24 hours in Nigeria. Over the weekend, we saw Nigeria record some of its highest infections in almost 2 months. Well, for the latest figures, the NCDC posted that Lagos had the most infections for the day. The NCDC is also reporting a backlog of cases from Akwa Ibom State. Now, we all know Nigeria stopped vaccination precisely on the 8th of July due to lack of vaccines. But over the weekend, the country became the latest recipient of Chinese-donated vaccines. The Chinese ambassador to Nigeria delivered a donation of 470,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines to the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanere. in Abuja. We are not told which of the Chinese vaccines the country received. It also comes on the weekend where Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, expressed concerns over the reliance of African countries on developed countries for COVID-19 vaccines. She says a country like Nigeria should be producing her own vaccines. Well, to Tunisia, Ruth Sodiri a moment ago mentioned what happened in Tunisia. Now, the protesters are angry, not just over the economic crisis in the country, but as well as the COVID-19 situation. They're angry that the COVID cases are up and there's inadequate vaccine supply. And Dr. Bati rightly said, just last week we were talking about how the health minister, the prime minister actually sacked the health minister, and now he has been sacked by the president. The president also dissolved parliament, not just sacking the prime minister yesterday. And finally, to the U.S., where the top infectious disease expert, Anthony Fauci, has said that Americans who are immune compromised may end up needing vaccine booster shots in America. Those who are immune compromised include, but not limited to, those who are transplant patients, cancer, chemotherapy, autoimmune diseases, amongst others. This step is actually already been taken in Israel. Israel is administering third doses of the vaccine to immunocompromised people in Asia. And Asia, of course, had said that it's seen a decline in immunity in those who are vaccinated, especially those who are immunocompromised. It also coincides at a time where the Delta variant is now the dominant strain in the country. I
mean, I'm happy Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala made that point again about Nigeria not producing its own vaccines. And the question is, why are we not producing our own vaccines? If way back the 40s, I'm saying the 1940s, over 50, 60 years ago, we're producing our own vaccines out of Yaba. So what is the problem? And now we have vaccine candidates. Because you can't win in a world that is constantly evolving with different diseases. And Nigeria strengthening its vaccine capacity and production capacity is not just about COVID-19. It's about other vaccines people need to take. It's about probably malaria vaccines when they get better in the future. And that's why we need to start from here. That's why the federal government and every well-meaning Nigeria, I'm calling on now, should make it priority to ensure that those vaccine candidates in Nigeria at least go through first and second stage. And this way, it's a shame on us as a country that Cuba has passed the Sobrano vaccines through the first and second stage trial. Cuba, communist Cuba. But capitalist Nigeria, with the size and the mammoth economy, we can't do the same because we can't concert our efforts at ensuring that we break the back of this virus with vaccine production in our own country. It is very sad. That's the first point. Second point, I have to state clearly again. We had a doctor that came on here, Dr. Okereke, that talked about setting grants by MasterCard and the likes for vaccine production. I think it's time to get on with that. Look for that grant, activate, and do what is right. If Institut Pasteur in Senegal can be way ahead of us, and it's a shame.
Well, a number of questions about the first 70,000 doses donated by China to Nigeria. That won't even go far, but let's say we thank China for making that donation. I think it's important that the Minister of Health should state the type of vaccine that we have been given. Is it Sinopharm or Sinovac? Now, China has been engaging in what it calls vaccine diplomacy. Yes. And it thinks that it's doing a lot more than the Western world to help many countries, particularly in the Indo-Pacific, in the Southeast Asian countries, and also in Latin America. Now, what actually is Nigeria doing with regard to getting our own vaccines? South Africa, yesterday, President Ramaphosa announced that between now and September, South Africa has placed order for about 3 million doses of various vaccines. And South Africa has been able to, survive the third wave. And hence there was a restriction to level 3 in terms of, the guidelines for the people. So what are we doing here? We're supposed to get 6 million doses from the COVAX facility. We've been able to get up to 3 million, and we got additional supply from India, and we got some kind of support from MTN. But what is the Nigerian government itself doing? And with regard to China, the Chinese ambassador was making some statements yesterday. He was using the opportunity to say, well, vaccine deployment should not be politicized. Nobody should blame China and all that. So I guess that's part of the vaccine diplomacy. But it's important to know what we're being given, because the Southeast Asian countries are now saying Sinopharm and Sinovac are just about 60% effective. And that in the face of the Delta variant, those two vaccines are just about 50% effective. In fact, Vietnam refused to even accept vaccines from China because China gave conditions as to how the vaccines should be used. And Vietnam just said, no, thanks. If you are going to give us conditions, in fact, we don't want. So we need to know those details. And Nigeria has to be more proactive. When are we going to get the next batch? We shouldn't be depending on donations. We should have our own roadmap, like the South Africans, like the Americans. Only yesterday, you quoted Anthony Fauci about plans, to move forward. And the affected parts in the United States are those states where there was low vaccination rates. Those are the states where the numbers are going up. Georgia, Florida, Missouri, Arkansas. So those are the most affected states. And we need in Nigeria here to show that we're really committed to the vaccination process, particularly with the spread of the Delta variant.
Well,
all right. Thank you so much. This was all.